So the cure I accidentally found for idiopathic vestibular disease, or old dog vestibular syndrome, which has these big episodes. It looks like a heart attack or a fit, the eyes rolling, shaking, and it runs its course if you don't intervene. But if you put a dab of cayenne pepper, which is a natural vasodilator, it contains the active ingredient capsaicin, which is well known to medical science. It's used on different things to promote blood flow. I've checked with vets and doctors and pharmacists, and the best theory they have so far is that small capillaries in the brain get blocked. You put a dab of cayenne pepper on the gum where there are no taste buds, and cayenne pepper is extremely mild, so it makes very little difference in heat, and some people get completely hysterical about putting heat into the dog's mouth. But I mean, if you had any intelligence at all, you'd see having a gigantic fit that leads to permanent disability with a head tilt is far more concerning than some mild heat on the gum, which has no taste buds anyway. So how I discovered it was my dog Daisy, at 13 years old, was having an attack of vestibular. We did not know what it was. I thought it was a heart attack, and I met an Aussie truck driver whose life was saved in Thailand by a quick thinking member of staff. He had a massive heart attack. The person working in the restaurant was familiar with cayenne pepper, put it on his gum, and it gave him enough time to get to the hospital that opened the blood vessels. So it's well known to medical science, and when I say it's a cure, well, it's treating the symptom, but the symptom's causing all the problem. I still brought Daisy to the vet, and at the time when I stopped that first fit, it may have been going on a while because we found her first thing in the morning. And so I brought her to the vet, and I said, "Hey, well, I put cayenne pepper on the gum, and it stopped in like less than 1 second, from like complete convulsions, eye rolling, shaking, just incredibly traumatic." And my mother and sister were crying. It was horrendous, and they didn't want me putting cayenne pepper on their gum, and I did it, and I gave them the biggest "I told you so" in history. 1 second later, it was completely stopped. Now, it did knock the stuffing out of Daisy for about 4 days. She was in pretty rough condition. It took a while to recover. And the vet said, "Well, I can give medicine for the vestibular." I said it to the vet what I'd used, and I said, "I don't know if it's just the heat and a gum distractor or what. Because when it works one time, it's hard to know. Maybe it is a coincidence, but it didn't seem to be a coincidence because it was so fast." But I didn't even know what it was at that stage. I thought it was a heart attack. So he said, "No, it's vestibular. The medicine will give you probably won't work." So I appreciate a vet like that. You know, it's based on his experiences. The prescribed medicine doesn't work. So I can deal with that. So another fit happened, and I gave it to her again, and I stopped it. I was at home all the time. I was recovering from a broken leg. It stopped the fit. We brought her down to the vet, and she used to love picking on little white fluffy dogs. She's harmless, but she used to love picking on smaller dogs, but in a fairly gentle way. And she was already doing that in the vet after the second fit. That was maybe a week later. So I realized she was pretty good. We left her in overnight, but actually by the time we got her back from the vet, she was in much worse condition than when I brought her in just after the fit. So I had a discussion with my mother and realized that was not going to be a good idea to do that again, because I didn't want to see her deteriorate in the vets, and maybe it does nothing to do with the vet care, just she probably wanted to be in her own home. So I can't remember whether she had a few more. I think she had a few more fits, and I stopped them with the cayenne pepper. Loads of witnesses, even though it was a family occasion and there was like 30 people around, and so loads of people saw it. It was almost instantaneous. So there's no arguing with whether it worked or not. And I've reported it on Facebook groups, and there must be about 100 people at this stage, and 2 different groups who've replied and said it did exactly the same thing for their dog. And a lot of complete maniacs who have some very strange opinions about what medicine can be used. You know, you should use whatever medicine works. As you can see from my other posts on the channel, I use allopathic medicine for everything else. I mean, that it's appropriate to use it for. You use whatever works. It all comes from nature anyway, So maybe cayenne pepper hasn't been trademarked, or can't be trademarked, or can't be patented as itself, and it's the most effective cure. You can do Google and AI searches and get all the wrong answers you want, but it does work. So, and it's not dangerous. And just rub it on your own gum if you're worried enough about it. See how it feels. I just licked the tip of my finger, dabbed it in the cayenne pepper, put it on her gum. Simple. She's about 15 kg. The amount's not going to matter. You see some ridiculous warnings on AI searches or Google, but it depends how you do the search. You can do the search another way and it says totally safe. So it's fine. It also, capsaicin, it sometimes says capsaicin is dodgy for dogs. Well, Asian street dogs eat capsaicin all the time because it's in red peppers, red chili peppers, chili peppers in general, I think. So if it was poisonous to dogs, you wouldn't have incredibly out of control populations of street dogs all around Asia who eat capsaicin all the time. A lot spicier than cayenne pepper, the chili sauce that they use, which is mixed in with all the food, which they get the leftovers of. So from empirical, fact-based, repeatedly tested viewpoint, this does work and it's totally safe. I mean, whatever opinions you want to have about reality are your own business, and that's imagination and fantasy. But it does work and it's not dangerous. So that's quite simple. I'm not saying don't go to the vet. Go to the vet too. Tell the vet what you did if you were able to stop the fit. But the chances are you'll only know this is vestibular after you visit a vet. You won't know what it is at first. Then the vet will tell you. Your dog will spend a few days to recover. It'll probably have a relapse. And there might be other medicines that are helpful. People on those groups recommend some medicines. They think it's helpful. So that's fine. So there's no contraindications, I think that's the word, between cayenne pepper and other medicines. There's no known ones, so you can use both. So use whatever you want from the vet and go with the vet advice. But I'm telling you what will definitely work from based on my experience and the feedback I've got from lots of other people. If there's some underlying cause, the vet might be able to deal with that, antibiotics for an ear infection or whatever. So go ahead with that. I also say that pet food is often pure garbage. Canned meat for dogs is just pure garbage and has almost no nutritional content. The dry food often has a lot of wheat, soya, all this stuff. This is not natural food for a dog. So you might want to make a few changes and feed whole food to dogs. So that would be something worth looking at. I know for people with epilepsy, ketogenic diets tend to reduce the risks of that, and if you eat a ketogenic diet yourself, you probably feel very healthy quickly. You can look up Dr. Eric Berg for the human version. As a vegetarian, it's quite hard to do, but I've done it before and I felt really, really healthy, and that might give your dog a boost. But I don't know on that. That's up to yourself. But be aware that if a dog's older, and we're more sensitive to junk food when we're older, and just because it's got a brand name on the packet doesn't mean that the food is any good. So please be aware of that and try to feed the dog whole foods, good foods. I mean, raw eggs cooked in butter, coconut oil, the likes of boiled chicken heads if your dog doesn't get a diarrhea from chicken. Some pet dogs do. Minced meats, the cheap minced meats with lots of fat and meat in it. And some veggies they'll eat, maybe a little bit of carrot or broccoli or whatever they will eat. And access to grasses would be useful and get them on a bit of a ketogenic diet. With smaller dogs, you'll have to be a little bit more careful, so you can check that out yourself. But if a dog is on an ordinary diet, I might swap out kibble for short grain organic brown rice and cook meat in with that and veggies, and I think you'll get a good result of that. We did that with Daisy. So Daisy lived 5 more years. She had more fits until we started putting it in her food. So she was about a 15 kilogram dog. We put in about a matchstick head amount of cayenne pepper in her food daily. I might have done it twice daily. This is going back to 2017. We kept it up, so she was at least getting it once daily for a month, then every second day for another month, and then maybe twice a week. And after about 3 months, I was away again. And my mother said she didn't use it after that, and Daisy was fine. She didn't have another fit. You have to be cautious. The dog is more prone to an episode after it's tired out or after it's been excited. So it might be a good idea to have cayenne pepper with you on a walk. You can get capsules. Humans take this too. You can get it in health food stores or iHerb or whatever, and carrying around a capsule can be quite convenient. You can check if you have high blood pressure. You can take cayenne pepper and measure your blood pressure very quickly afterwards, and you'll see how fast it works. So it is a cure in that it'll sort out the problem. Will it fix the underlying cause of it? No, but you can deal with a vet for that. If it's an ear infection, if it's whatever, then you just deal with that. If you can't find any cause, well, at least now you've got something to keep it at bay. And so, simple, easy win. If I'm giving it as a preventative measure, I'm putting it in food. I'm only putting it on the gum to stop a fit, so it can quickly go into the bloodstream. So I think you'll find it's helpful, and no doubt I'll get a bunch of idiots leaving comments on this if the video gets popular, saying, "Oh, it's dangerous for dogs and all." There's no cure for their stupidity, and I've seen it on the Facebook groups time and time again. It doesn't matter how many people post that the only thing that saved the dog, it saved the dog's life. It worked instantly. It doesn't matter how many times that's posted. You're still going to get absolutely mental people in the world with serious mental problems, and they will post stuff in the comments. And so just keep that in mind when you're reading that nonsense. And if you do AI searches and you do Google searches, just keep in mind that they're not necessarily correct. And just try it for yourself. Just see for yourself. Put it on your own gum if you're hysterical about the heat. And if you want the solution for vestibular disease in your dog, cayenne pepper is your solution. So you choose. And the most important thing is you help the dog. And there's no known side effects from it, no known contraindications. So it should be an easy win, and it's about $1 for a lifetime supply. So you can just buy any one in your local supermarket in the jar and just keep it there. And you can test it for high blood pressure, like I said, if you want. Okay, very good. I hope your dog gets better.